I have a couple of questions related to the first and second part of this presentation. So, first of all, I'm curious whether you think that there is a size of circulation, an audience, and magazine that is just too small, and that while this could be a consideration, that it's probably not worth the investment, and where that line is.
Good question. I think it really depends on what sort of niche you're serving, and is that audience already being served by a number of other people? So, for example, I do some work with a publication that is in the medical space that has a very unique audience they serve. It's not the biggest audience in the world, but it's a unique way to reach medical professionals that is very difficult to do. I would say that, in a print space, you want to be printing somewhere between 500 to 1,000 copies before you start really thinking about advertising. Now, you may be able to get some advertising before you hit the 500 to 1,000 mark, and that's fine, but you want to be careful that you're managing your own expectations around that, because advertising 500 to 1,000 copies, it's going to be pretty limiting, particularly because for a lot of people, they're able to advertise through Meta or through other digital platforms and get better bang for your buck. So, you have to think about, in that advertising scenario, okay, how much are your rates going to be? And also, who's going to sell those ads? Is that going to be part of somebody else's job? Okay, that might work really well. But by the time you pay that person to sell those ads, plus you pay the production cost, you're not left with very much, right? So, that's sort of a ballpark. Have there been people who sell ads very effectively with fewer numbers? Sure. But you just have to sort of manage. When you say, who's that going to be worth it for? Like, worth it for who? Because it is challenging by the time you take that ad to pay everybody and still be left with a profit.
Thank you. I have another question regarding interacting with your advertising base. What would you say is good customer service after the sale?
Okay, so we'll do a few basic things, and then we'll get into a couple of things that I have done recently that work really well, that I was surprised at how well they work. So basic things are: send a copy of the entire publication, not just the tear sheet. Spend the extra money, send the entire publication. We do that for a couple of reasons. One, advertising is one of those things where people need to see what their competitors are up to. So you want people who are buying quarter pages to see what a half page looked like. You want people who are buying half pages to see what a full page looks like. You want people who are buying full pages to see what a cover looks like, so on and so forth. Ideally, you have a couple people doing 2-page spreads, and you want people to see, hey, if I'm at a full page and I buy a 2-page spread, that looks impressive. So you send the copy of the magazine and the invoice. Then I also think it's important to check in with people and say, how did you get the copy? What'd you think? Did you like where we put you? All those kinds of things, right? Then the other thing, and these are kind of two things we started doing. One in the pandemic that I really recommend if you have the time and the energy to do, works very well. At the Writers Festival, we send all of our advertisers a thank you for your business card, handwritten card that I write with the tear sheet, copy of the publication, copy of the program guide, and the invoice. They also get a thank you card. We started this in the pandemic because the pandemic was tough on everybody. And we also found that people appreciated them. Like, I didn't think this was going to be a big deal. And I got emails from people saying, thanks for the card. So that helps. I also have, in some cases, for certain projects, especially if it's their first time and taking advantage of an opportunity, sent cards around that. It's really the little things that help people. The other thing that I'll say is if you have somebody who is doing a really cool thing, it's a nice moment, especially if they don't have a big budget. It's a nice moment to just acknowledge that person is doing really good work and upsize their ad. You know, hey, you're promoting a really cool LGBTQ initiative. We're going to upsize that ad. Hey, this is an author who's doing their first book ever. You know, we're going to upsize that ad. Because I think all those things do matter. You know, if you have longer standing clients, you know, remembering their birthdays, that kind of thing. You know, and on the reverse case too, you know, if things go poorly, you know, how can you really show up for that person? You know, I've had clients get sick and miss a deadline. Nothing anybody could do. Do we enforce the 50% deposit if somebody is, you know, really sick, or if they've had a family member pass or anything like that? No, we don't enforce that kind of thing. A colleague of mine put it best when we started the pandemic. Everybody canceled, right? Lots of people canceled because their business was about to close. And a colleague of mine said, the most important thing we have to do in this moment is remember that people are going to get through this, and we're going to want to be there for people during this process so we can look them in the face after it happens. So I think that's kind of a overarching rule, but it's really the little things that do really well.
One last question. You talked about in the first part of the presentation about PR people who may be in the position to purchase ads.
Mm-hmm.
They're frequently pitching stories to editorial. Some of those stories are going to be interesting to editorial, but let's be honest, and 99% of them are not. So how do you approach working with your editor to get those leads and also to divert a PR person from pitching coverage to buying an ad about the thing that they're trying to pitch?
I mean, it's a touchy subject, right? Because you're kind of, in a way, I think, talking out of both sides of your mouth on a certain level, which is not new for those of us in the ad sales department, but that's fine. So there's two things. One, as an ad salesperson, I have less than zero control over editorial. Like, I have none. I can facilitate introductions to the editorial department. Happy to do that. I'm also totally happy to, you know, if a person, a marketing person, a publicist, whatever, comes to me and says, hey, do you think this would be a good fit for editorial? I will connect people to editorial, and in that moment, I will also say, if you want to guarantee getting in front of our audience, buy your ad. Now, sometimes editorial will do things that I don't appreciate because those same people who they're highlighting in their stories aren't buying ads and they won't return my calls. That's super frustrating. And those people in marketing and editorial are spending a lot of time, you know, taking our editors to lunch and buying them all kinds of fun stuff and taking them on trips and on and on and on. So it's difficult in those situations. I think all you can do is say, here's all the ways editorial has independently covered you. It would be really great to see some advertising from you. The other thing that we did really successfully, I think, in the Weekender is we launched the Weekender, and I started taking it out and talking about it to some of our advertisers and saying, hey, look, we're really doing this cool thing. And we had a meeting, myself and our publisher, Jeanette Edgison. And I said to Jeanette, sort of just as a broad question, hey, what did it cost us to build the Weekender? Because, by the time I factor in our writers, our editors, our e-newsletter editors, all those people, like it's a bunch of people who work on the Weekender to bring it to life. And we sort of got back and forth about it. And this was around the time we were thinking about raising rates, which we hadn't done in a number of years. And so we settled on the fact that to launch the Weekender, including everything, was probably $100,000. And so I said, okay, great. That's super helpful. So when we sent out the notice to people saying, hey, rates are going up, it's a great time to book your campaign for 26. This was in sort of November of last year. It's a great time to book your campaign for 26 because come January the 1st, the rates are going up. Oh, and by the way, we've built out the Weekender over the last year and a bit, and we've invested $100,000 into it. And I thought for sure somebody was going to say, oh, we want to, like, what do you mean 100,000? Where did you spend all that money? There was no pushback at all on it, successfully, knock wood. And demonstrating to advertisers in particular, hey, this thing that you really love that shines a light on your cool arts organization, we spent a bunch of money into it. So, if you could advertise with us, that will help us justify keeping all these people who work on the Weekender employed and pulling the curtain back a little bit and saying to people as well, which I think is part of it, did you know, here's all the people who work on the Weekender. People see Jackie, our fabulous Weekender editor, and Dorothy, and they're familiar with them because they're always on the byline. But, oh, by the way, did you know we have Jacob, who's our newsletter editor, and we have all these other people? It's not just the people whose bylines you read. There are people behind the scenes, and making sure people are aware, like, this costs money to produce. It's a business, How can we tell those stories? Because the more people understand that, the more likely they are, I think, to advertise.
Thank you, Trevor.
Thank you.